Well, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? So today we are going to be doing our conjunction of Sun and Venus. And what happens when you have a Sun and Venus together in the same house? And as always, if you do not know what kind of conjunctions you have in your horoscope, what kind of planetary placements you have in your horoscope, for that check out the links here and check out my full astrological report, including my book's conjunction aspects and the astrology at the speed of light, where I discuss 2 all the way to 8 planetary conjunctions, so you can know exactly how to read a conjunction and what they actually mean. So Sun and Venus conjunction, perhaps a very common conjunction that you will find in people's chart, because about, I would say, 40 to 48% of the population has Sun and Venus conjunction. However, the only ones that really get affected by the true meaning of Sun and Venus conjunction is when Venus is within 5 degrees of Sun. Usually I talk about 10-degree difference. Here the Venus is really more about giving its true meaning within 5 degrees of Sun's degrees. So let's discuss the basic concept of this conjunction first. So what is Sun? Sun represents your ego, your self-esteem, your pride, your personality, your soul. Sun represents fatherly figures, government heads. So Sun represents there's like a truckload of meanings that I can give you for Sun, but basically this is what Sun is. And Sun is a hot planet. Okay, so that's something that we also have to remember as a basic concept of Sun. But then what is Venus? Venus represents love, your ability to form relationships with other people, the kind of relationships you form with other people. Venus represents female, not just wife. It represents a wife for a man, girlfriend for a man, but just a normal female, like if any female passed by. In my chart, that person represents a Venus. So Venus represents that. Venus represents marriage, relationships. Venus also represents eggs in a woman's jar, in a woman or biological system, and sperm in a man's system. And Venus represents creativity, arts, cinema, creative expression. Venus even represents music, luxury, assets, wealth. Venus is currency. So Venus also represents truckload of meanings, more than what I'm just saying. So usually when Sun and Venus come together, and this is simply when they are less than 5 degrees or 5 degrees or 10 degree, let's just say, when they come together, what this shows is that a person's ego and their self-esteem and their personality forms when they are in relationships with other people. Their soul feels at balance when they are in relationship and good harmony with other people. And it's not just love relationship. Mainly, yes, Venus represents love relationship, but it could be a relationship with your father, your relationship with your uncle, your mother, your grandparents, your siblings. All the relationships that they interact with kind of forms who they are, kind of forms what they're all about. But at the same time, what this shows is that this person could also be very egoistic in relationship. If, let's say, this conjunction forms in the 7th house only, that can reflect that, okay, the person that you might be with in your life may be very egoistic. But the rest of the time, this close conjunction of Sun and Venus represents somebody who feels pride about how they love other people, how they give to other people, how much luxury they have given to other people. And so they have this ego. And also what this can represent is somebody whose ego is overflowed or overflowed. Ego is like overblown with all the luxuries that they have in their life. Okay, so usually when people talk about women only wanting rich men and rich this, those are the kind of people that may have this kind of a Sun and Venus combination. where their egos and their relationship ability to form relationship only relies on the luxurious things that they can get in their life through other people, or how good the other person makes them feel, how nourish the other person, how much of a nourishment that the other person gives them is also what happens with this conjunction. But then there's another side to this conjunction. One of these sides also represents a person who is really very good in creativity. Like whenever sun is close to a planet, it brightens the quality of that planet. So in a way, this person can be a giver of love, relationship, wealth, creativity. The artistic talent just brightens them up. Now, the negative and positive part only comes in depending upon who is holding the lowest degrees. So let's discuss, if Venus holds the lowest degree, what happens? And if Sun holds the lowest degree, what? So let's say if you have a conjunction with Venus holding the lowest degrees and Sun holding the highest degree. And usually I say that the planet that holds the lowest degree holds the bigger meaning in life, okay? And it's true here too. And what happens here with Venus, let's say Venus holds the lowest degree. So Venus is at, let's say, 12 degrees. Sun is at 15 degrees. So Venus is 3 degrees apart. First of all, you gotta understand, Sun is a very hot planet. So if anything comes near the Sun, it starts getting very warm and heated. But I will not use the word combusted, because you know what? We should not be using this vocabulary combusted as much as I have used it before. But I don't see any reason to, because a planet never loses its full quality, even when it's combust. It'll have its full quality. What's happening now is that this person easily gets agitated in relationships. They easily get into arguments in relationships. What happens is that they run into people that kind of annoy them, agitate them. Like you run into a girl, like you're a nice, simple guy going to Harvard, and then you just get some girl like, you better come here on time or I ain't going to be opening the door for you. Now, if you got that girlfriend, most likely you might have Venus very close to Sun holding the lowest degrees. Because Venus, what's happening is, Venus is going towards the Sun, right? Sun is the highest degree, Venus has the lowest degree, so Venus eventually has to pass through the Sun. In a metaphor, it shows that Venus is coming closer and getting burned. Not getting combusted, not losing its power, just simply feeling irritated and agitated. And this is where we say that whenever Venus is very close to the Sun, a person runs into somebody who may make them feel so agitated that they end up getting a divorce. And the reason why I can say that, and other people have said this, is it shows in the horoscope. Whenever it's in the lowest degree and very close, and the person gets married really early, in their early 20s, mid 20s, they start getting agitated in a relationship because they start to finally understand who the person is that they marry. This is why whenever Venus is very close to the Sun, it's okay to wait till 27, 28. Because what happens is with age, with time, every single planet calms down. So guess what's happening? Sun's maleficness, which burns everything, calms down. It's like instead of the blue fire, the hottest fire, it becomes more of a yellow fire. So it's warm, man. It's not 150 degrees. It's now 90 degrees. It's still hot, but you can still play golf, in this weather. That's what Venus does when it's lowest in degrees. Now, what if Venus is higher in degrees? So Sun holds the lowest degrees and Venus holds the highest degrees. Well, what happens is Sun brightens the quality of Venus. It's like shining a flashlight on Venus. And what happens is these people are extremely creative. They like to present themselves in the most humbling way, most compassionate way, and they love to give their love to people. So when they're in a relationship, they're all about giving. because now their light is being reflected. Their Venus is so bright that all they want to do is just give love. They want to be in relationships. They want to form harmony and be very liberal in relationships. Their creativity is being brightened up. You know, it's like sun is like illuminating a person's creativity, creative self-expression. In this case, if it's very close, let's say if it's under 5 degrees and Venus is coming out of the combustion, okay, technically being burnt, it's finally feeling relaxed. It's like finally coming out of this hot shower, and you know, which is a very boiling hot, and now finally it can relax in a cool weather. And that's what happens when the lowest and the highest degree comes into play. Now, here's another thing you want to need to know. When Venus is in its own sign and holds the lowest degrees, that's where Venus becomes powerful. Because now it's in its own house and it's holding the lowest degree. Because according to conjunction studies, and I've written this in my book, the planet that holds the lowest degree has the biggest say in the relationship. And when Venus is holding the lowest degrees, no matter how bad the person that they're running to, no matter how bad their surroundings are and their relationships get due to Venus being burnt, they still hold it. They're like, no, I'm going to hold this. I'm going to hold this marriage. I'm going to hold this bond together. And somehow they steer through. So sometimes you hear stories of people, hey, they were such in a bad shape, I thought they're going to get a divorce, but they didn't. Somehow the wife just managed to go through the thing and managed to solve the problems of relationship. That's because the Venus was strong. The Venus was able to hold its ground, say, no, I'm all about commitment. I am all about marriage and relationships. I'm going to make it happen. Now, yeah, if Venus is debilitated, let's say in Virgo, and then it's very close to the sun, not only they're getting agitated, they're getting frustrated. Venus with the lowest degree is on a kind of a shaky ground, because they keep getting their heartbreak. They keep getting person who is, you know, extremely critical of them, and they become critical of them. So when you criticize somebody, things don't work out. So that's how this conjunction things work with Sun and Venus, especially with Sun and Venus. Like Sun and Mercury, I've made Buddhaditya Yoga of how you read that. That works in a similar way, but just a little different from other conjunctions. So Venus does the same thing. Venus and Sun have their own meaning, but just sign placement, degree placement really makes a difference about how you handle relationships, how you handle love, how you handle, you know, your marriage, pretty much. And also when Venus is really close and it's lower in degree but extremely close, a person has lower sperm cells or have less eggs. A woman might have less eggs because eggs are being burnt now. Venus significance is being burnt in your life. That's all it means. But it doesn't mean you cannot have kids. It's just that instead of a million eggs, a woman might have 100,000 eggs. Okay, instead of you producing 10 million sperms in one go, you might produce maybe 60,000 sperm in a go. So it'll take you longer to have kids, but you can have kids. It's never like, oh, zero. I mean, those are very, very rare cases. You know, only when all the malefic aspects and conjunctions are happening, you know, and Venus is bad, and even in the mantra chart, that's where these things, you know, really do affect. But all it is just significance or just being burnt and just coming out. Being burnt, coming out. Don't ever think that you completely lose everything with Venus. Otherwise, you should be on a street with nobody around you. You still form relationships even with the Venus 1 degree close to Sun. But it all depends. Sign placement becomes very important here. Degree becomes very important here. And house placements becomes very important here. Okay? So guys, this was my analysis of Venus and Sun conjunction. If you're new to my channel, subscribe below. And if you want to know where your Venus is placed and where your Sun is placed and all the other planetary placements for that, check out the links here and check out my astrological report and books and consultations, everything here. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.